All right, I just wanted to welcome everybody to October 21st. This is a town hall to have a discussion regarding the proposed bird scooters. Are we good? I think we're good. And unfortunately, we don't have anybody in the audience today, but we are wanting to record this. There are folks that may attend via YouTube Live. It doesn't allow for the engagement, but of course, if you have any questions or comments regarding the proposed bird electric scooters, you're more than happy to email myself at sbrewer@coalinga.com. We like to get feedback from everyone. And anyone that decides to show up tonight, we'd be more than happy to get your comments, questions, concerns regarding this proposal. A little background, the city was approached by bird scooters to engage in efforts here in the city of Coalinga to deploy approximately, as a start, 40 bird scooters, electric scooters throughout the city. There has been a presentation at a previous council meeting about 3 months ago from Bird in terms of their operations, what they're about, and kind of next steps. As we're moving through that next steps phase, staff has engaged the community and attempted to get some feedback and any questions or concerns folks may have as prior to the city council considering an operational agreement with bird scooters to deploy approximately 40 scooters. We first wanted to start off, I wanted to introduce Garrett with bird scooters. He's going to do a brief presentation, give you some history and background on bird scooters, what bird scooters are, as many may not be familiar with this type of mode of transportation and how it potentially impacts and looks in a community of our size. So I'm going to hand it over to Garrett, and we're going to have this will all be recorded and available on our YouTube page. If we have anybody show up in the audience, we'll definitely engage in any questions or comments from them. If not, then we will conclude the town hall and upload this so people can at least receive a background of what bird scooters is all about. So Garrett, I'm going to hand it over to you if you want to do a presentation on what you guys offer.
Excellent. And thank you for that introduction, Sean. As Sean said, my name is Garrett Gronowski. I am a senior account executive here at Bird Scooters. I've been with the company for 3.5 years of really the 4 years that this micromobility e-scooter phase has been implemented into really the world. So I've been implementing micromobility and e-scooter programs at the university and city level for about as long as anyone could. So here as a resource, as Sean said, as Coalinga really navigates into bringing this new transportation method into your community. As he said, we are interested in bringing about 40 scooters, electric scooters, to be a new mode of transportation for the community of Coalinga. We are looking to bring a more sustainable open air transportation, something to supplement unnecessary car trips. That's really why Bird was started and founded 4 years ago. Our founder and came from Uber and Lyft. He was a C-level at both of those companies. Saw that 40% of Uber and Lyft rides were under 2.5 miles long. Thought that there would be a better a way to go about to get to those destinations. So really our ultimate goal is to eliminate unnecessary car trips. We truly believe that anything under 2.5, 3 miles is unnecessary to take a car. And we want to supplement that with another form of transportation. Our vehicle that we are looking to bring to Coalinga to supplement those rides is the electric scooter. It is a shared model. This is a dockless, free-flowing model. No additional infrastructure needs to be implemented in Coalinga for us to run operations. It's a series of short-term rentals. That means the average time being spent on a bird scooter is 10 to 20 minutes. Average distance is about 0.8 to 2.5 miles long. So obviously, we're looking to solve first and last mile transportation connectivity issues. And really, you're going to hear me say that word connectivity a lot. We are looking for just to provide another means for the community to connect with the community. So 65% of these rides do end up in front of a local business and restaurant and helping to stimulate the local economy that way, but also an amenity for the community as well. So there will be joyriding happening. At the end of the day, these are electric scooters. They are enjoyable to be on. So there is that practicality, of course, but it is nice to have that amenity feel to it as well. How it works is we are an app based. So you would create your profile, you would upload a credit card, debit card, prepaid card, whatever it is for your profile. You would go through a series of tutorials. This is really what you learn about the do's, the don'ts, the scooter etiquette and regulations on what you do when you're operating a bird scooter in the city of Kalinga. You go through video tutorials, reading tutorials, and then you would be able to ride the bird scooter. The operating zone would be the city limits of Kalinga, so you would have free reign over anything where the city allows it. Everything I say is completely customizable, as we know no two communities are the same. But again, there would be about 40 birds that would be available to rent and to ride. The birds would be identified being available to rent by having those bird icons as you see on the screen. You would walk up to the bird that's available. You would scan a QR code, type in the unique ID. It is $1 to unlock, about 30 cents per minute after that. And after you start your ride, it is yours for the entire time that you rented it. Again, like I said, it's a series of short-term rentals. So they organically move throughout the city by different people renting and riding them. This would be the physical scooter itself. This is our Bird Zero. So as you see, all the specs, completely street legal. The community should look at the electric scooter as an extension of your bike program. They go where bikes go. We govern the speed. The top speed is 15 miles per hour. That's because that is the average speed of a commuter on a bicycle as well. They will be parked where bikes are parked, so next to bike racks, utilizing that furniture loading zone, so next to street signs, street lamps. Really, number one rule when it comes to parking these bird scooters is out of the pedestrian right away. So a lot of rider education goes into that. We can also incentivize riders to park into certain locations, which I have a slide dedicated to. Also, some additional technology that we've been able to implement into communities like Kalinga is our geofencing technology. If there is an area where maybe you think there is heavy pedestrian foot traffic or you don't allow bicycles or skateboards, we can actually implement a layer of GPS called geofencing and communicate with the scooter in real time. So let's say you're even holding an event, these areas can be temporary or permanent. And we can, again, implement a layer of GPS. So if we don't want the scooters to enter a certain area, we would enter that layer of GPS. As soon as that scooter hits that area, it would beep 3 times and the motor would turn off. That is our geofence, geospeed area. We can also do a no park zone. So once a scooter, let's say a rider wants to utilize it or the city wants that rider to utilize it through that area, but not park in that area, they would receive an error message saying this is a no park zone. The meter would continue to run and they would be directed to the nearest parking location. We can also reduce the speed. So what's that mean? Instead of having 15 miles per hour, if it's a heavy foot traffic area, let's reduce the speed to 10 miles per hour, where it's a little bit more pedestrian friendly. Obviously, in the state of California, it is not mandated for users to wear helmets. We do make all helmets available for riders. So helmets are available for free through the app. All the rider has to do is pay for shipping and handling, which is about $4.99. We run some fun promotions to promote helmet safety. If you take a selfie with your helmet before you ride, you get a discount. And then parking management is a slide I have dedicated to a little bit later. Transportation benefits, number one, clearly the no cost micromobility solution to the city. So no budget needs to be allocated. There is no operational burden to the city for us to run operations here. So we are just looking for approval to bring our micromobility program to the city of Kalinga and run operations. How we do that is we've localized our operation. So this is what I think is the coolest method and how we've been able to expand our reach and instead of just operating in those large metropolitan cities, operate in these smaller to mid-sized markets as well. So we would actually partner with a local entrepreneur, a business owner, a community member who lives in Coalinga, who knows their community. This individual, really in the eyes of the community, would be Bird Scooters. They would be running day-to-day operations. They would be supported by Bird. It would be powered by Bird. They'd be trained by Bird. And Bird, they would have the support of Bird on the back end. But this individual would form a corporation and run a small scooter business through there. They would be bringing in significant amount of revenue through a revenue share model that we do with the entrepreneur. I just want to shortly touch on what day-to-day operations would look like for this fleet manager. That's going to really help paint the picture of a day in the life of a Bird scooter as well. So operations usually run, again, customizable, about 6 a.m. to midnight. So that's when the Bird scooters would be available to rent and to ride. Outside of those operating hours, if you were to log into Bird, there'd be no available scooters to rent and to ride. Also, these scooters would be off the streets. That local entrepreneur will have a home base, a two-guard garage, a warehouse, somewhere to store the vehicles, perform repairs, and of course, charge them. They are electric scooters. We want to be a reliable source of transportation. So obviously that starts with having them fully charged with the ability to get as many rides as possible. Then at that first step is that 6 a.m. strategic planning of the scooters. We will, again, strategically place these scooters in high demand areas. These are areas that best serve the community. Of course, we love recommendations from the administration, the community themselves. But at the end of the day, we are a data company. So the longer we run operations, the better we get at it. We can see trends and where people are starting rides and ending rides. We actually have some insight on where people are opening up the Bird app to look for birds. So we can strategically place them that best serve the community and best have a chance for conversion as well. After those are placed out, those initial parking spots are called nest locations. There's a lot of bird puns when you work with us, just buckle up for that. The nest locations, the rides start to organically happen. So the individual will unlock it for $1, 30 cents per minute. After that, they take it to their end destination. After that, they park the Bird. They take a picture of their parked Bird to make sure it's out of pedestrian right away. That kind of gives us the A-OK. And that's how they organically move throughout the city. Coolest thing, in my opinion, about this localized operation, this fleet manager, because he or she manages the fleet of Bird scooters, is they proactively manage these scooters throughout the day. So they're in the field, they're in their community, making sure that these transportation devices are in the best places to serve the community again. So they will be rebalancing, is what we call it. It's a Bird phrase for moving low demand scooters back to high demand areas. So if you're in the downtown Coalinga area and you take it back to your resident, we love that you're using that last mile solution. We also know it's not best serving the community in that residential area. In real time, that local fleet manager would be notified saying, hey, Bird XYZ at this location has been marked in a low demand area. They would respond to that, move it to a high demand, one of those predetermined nest or parking locations that best serve the community, make sure it's in a great parking location out of pedestrian right away, and replace it there. Any during the day, any damages or low battery Birds that are marked by the riders themselves will be automatically displayed and communicated to that local fleet manager. They would pick them up, take them back to the service center, perform the repair, start charging the Bird. These operations, again, usually go from about 6 a.m. until midnight. So it's really an emphasis on the proactive management. These scooters are getting multiple touch points on by this local fleet manager to make sure they're in great parking locations throughout the day. The local impact, as I touched on before, 56% of these rides do connect to a local business. So 56% of them have a definite destination, and again, under that 3-mile radius. The other percentage is, again, amenity for the community. So joyriding, you will see that happening. Customer service, really want to emphasize this. Each scooter has a phone number and email address. We love community sorry about that, I cut out for a little bit. Every scooter has a phone number and email address, as we love community criticism and feedback as well. So if you guys do see a bird parked in a parking location, you don't want to see it, or just have some feedback for us, you feel free to call in or just send us an email. That was going so well with helping us build these community programs as we implemented in-app reporting system as well. This is called community mode, and you're able to report any one of the four things that you see. So unsafe riding, badly parked bird, damaged bird, or help. That is created a ticket and sent to our internal team. Also, it is also sent to that localized fleet manager as well. So one, we can reach out to that rider to let them know that they're reported and correct the behavior, but also it's reported to the local fleet manager so they can respond to that bird and make sure it is moved in a timely manner. There are some access programs for low-income riders if they provide, also community pricing for veterans, senior citizens, and select community and nonprofit groups. Just some other innovative solutions that we've been implementing from community feedback, warm-up mode. If you've never been on a bird scooter, you can turn on warm-up mode. Instead, if you hit the throttle all the way down, instead of going up to 15 miles per hour, you go up to 8 miles per hour. So a nice, easy transition to get comfortable on a bird scooter. And lastly, touching on the recommended parking locations, this is what the parking locations would look like. Again, we are a dockless model, so all of our parking locations are virtual, but we can implement wherever the city would like us to implement these recommended parking locations. A lot of the time, it's just using your bike infrastructure, so all bike racks would have a preferred parking area, and the rider would get a address, a photo of how the bird should look, and directions of how to get there. So once you do enter the parking location, as you see in the fourth phone, you get a check mark saying you're in a designated parking spot, earn a $25 or 25 cents credit here. And then that last photo, verifying parking. You have to do this with all of your parking, even if it's not preferred parking locations, taking a ride, end of ride photo. So we have the ability to audit any of those rides. So that was my super high level overview. I don't know if anyone stepped into the room while we were going through that. I would like to open it up for any questions, concerns, words of wisdom for the community.
Thanks for that, Garrett. We don't have anybody in here. The mayor did step in. If he has any questions, he's more than happy to ask any questions. I just had a couple just for the audience, anybody that's watching or watches the recording. I think you talked a little bit is kind of in the scenario is what if the scooters are being placed in kind of unsafe locations, or if someone sees a scooter in an unsafe location like the middle of the sidewalk or on the street, you know, kind of what would be the process for that?
Yep, and that's when you're really going to utilize that community mode. So community mode is on the home page of the Bird app. So even if you're not a Bird user, you can download the Bird app. This is free of charge, free of use. And you would just take a picture of that poorly parked bird or bird that is in an area you don't want it. Again, that creates a ticket to send to our internal customer service team. We then reach out to the rider last associated with that bird from the information that we have. And it also creates a ticket and sent to that local fleet manager who then responds and moves that bird scooter as well. Of course, if you're physically able, we hope that you're a good Samaritan and just slightly move it out of the way as well. But there are those tools to report to Bird's internal team and the local fleet manager who manages those scooters daily.
Okay. And how about the correlation with scooters on private property? So if you're going to, I mean, obviously, if you're going to a business, you know, those scooters might go if you're going to that location, but say you don't take that scooter back on a ride back if you're going to a destination. How does that work? And what kind? Have you guys had any issues with that about scooters being left at local businesses or on private property?
Yeah, so we'll never initially start on private property unless that private property owner wants us to. We do get a lot of inquiries once we do have birds on the ground saying, hey, I would love to have a bird nest or a parking location to create some additional foot traffic and some buzz around my shop. But obviously, riders can end wherever they want. So if they do end on private property, that scooter would be available for the next rider to use on there. If that individual, the private property owner, does not want scooters parking there, that's where really that geofencing, that no end ride, that no park technology comes into play. We can implement that over that private property. Of course, we have all the data so we can see how many rides are ending there. Was it a one-off? Is this a common trend? Should this private property owner kind of look into implementing a scooter parking zone? So there's a lot of ways to go about it, but we'll really let the data do the talking. But obviously, if it is problematic, that's when we implement that geofencing technology.
Okay. And can you just kind of touch on where the typical parking locations would be?
Yep. So we love parking at bike infrastructure, so bike racks, but also utilizing furniture loading zones. So next to street signs, street lamps, trash cans, benches, anywhere out of the pedestrian right of way that is public property as well.
Okay. How old do the riders have to be? What's the minimum age for riders?
You have to be 18 years or older, and you do have to upload an ID. So driver's license, state ID, passport, something saying that you are 18 years or older.
Now, is that a state law or is that a bird policy?
That is a bird policy.
Okay. And can these scooters be driven on dirt or gravel?
Yes, they can.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. I think that as we move forward in the discussions, I think this will be something that we bring back to the council and start discussing, our approach to how we would look at implementing the bird scooters, whether that be through an operational agreement with the city in terms of a trial period to kind of look at what's the movement look like with these electric scooters throughout town, where are people using them. And I think with your guys' technology, it's going to give the city a lot of information in terms of where people are using them, any kind of concerns that local residences may have or businesses may have, and that will allow us as staff to engage with those businesses as well. So I see us, at least moving forward. Again, if the community members, anyone has any questions, comments, or concerns, staff is expected to bring this back to the council. There was, based on the previous presentation by Bird, council does want to consider, moving forward or at least considering this type of effort. And so staff will be bringing it back to council at a future meeting to look at potentially a pilot program or a kind of a one-year program to really kind of gauge what this mobility will look like in our community. So with that, I think that concludes our presentation. Garrett, thank you for coming on with us tonight and just giving a presentation, kind of giving an overview of what you guys offer and some of the benefits that could come to this community. And again, if anybody has any comments or questions, please email me at sbrewer@coalinga.com, and we'll definitely be able to bring that information to the city council or come to the city council when we notice the agenda item for this, as there is an undetermined date at this time, but hopefully sometime this year if at all possible. So with that, I think that's going to conclude our town hall. We do not have anybody in the audience. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone.
Thank you.